Hello and welcome to Super Switch Headz, the premier Nintendo podcast on all of the internet. My name is Patrick Knisley.
My name is Matthew Stoner.
And my name is David Howe.
And boy, oh boy, it's the three of us this week on episode 129, where we're doing a listener questions episode. We have some listener questions from way back up until some that just came in that we're going to answer, and some which we obviously have to skip, but we'll hold on to. We're going to do this again. So if the question didn't get answered, don't be too angry.
It's the penultimate episode of season 3 of Super Switch Headz.
That's right. That's right. Next episode is the season finale, and it's not even a real episode. So you guys are in for a treat.
In addition to taking some listener questions, we're going to be talking about the news and rumors of gaming for this week, including Gamescom, which is the big one this week. Also, there's a lot of news this week, y'all. We're going to be talking about some Metroid Dread trailer, about Metroid Prime 2D fan project that happened. A lot of people getting kicked out of or leaving things, I feel like, is a big theme in the news this week.
Let's go.
And then some regional things that have been happening in gaming as well. So a lot of cool stuff there and a lot of shitty stuff, actually. But we'll talk about all that. But first, how are y'all doing?
Doing okay.
Doing good.
Matt and I had a really fun weekend this past weekend, or really day, like a 22-hour period. But yeah, we went to Fort Worth and saw the Final Fantasy VII Remake concert at the Fort Worth Bass Concert Hall. It's pretty amazing. Got to meet Summer and Kyle from our Discords as well. It's just a delightful weekend all around. You have a good time, Matt?
Yeah, it was great. I think I cried 5 times. It's like Tifa's theme, cry. Aerith's theme, One Winged Angel, tears.
Yeah. See, for me, it was like the very first note they played of Prelude right at the very beginning of the concert.
Yeah.
I just immediately started crying. It was like the song started and I just instantly was crying. And it was funny too, because, and I told this to you guys there, but it was like, there was like a little bit of nervous laughter that happened in the entire audience whenever that song started. And I think everybody was laughing because everybody started crying immediately, and everybody was laughing at the fact that we were all crying at the same time. It was a very surreal experience, but super fun, man. I had a great time.
It's the emotions of people that haven't cried for years suddenly releasing.
Gamers don't cry.
Yeah, it was fun. Also, Summer, Kyle, and I went to the National Video Game Museum in Frisco, and they've done a really good job. They have some really strange collections. David, I posted a picture on our social media, but they have this e-reader collection from the Game Boy Advance era, as well as a really large collection of N64 DD. With
cool.
Really cool pamphlets, some VR stuff, and lots of really old Nintendo merchandise, like all the Nintendo cereals and some other weird knickknacks. So if you're ever in the Dallas Fort Worth area, check out the National Video Game Museum. Had a great time there.
Yeah, I'll have to go next time I'm up there. My family's around there, so I'll have lots of opportunities.
You're gonna lose it at the Donkey Kong Country section.
Yeah, I saw some photos. It looked pretty nice. Yeah. And also, Patrick, I have to say, we don't want to just make you feel like FOMO'd, but the whole time we were there, we were all like, man, we wish Patrick was here.
Oh, that's sweet. Y'all are too kind. Wish I could have been there with y'all.
Yeah, I think we joked about what do you think Patrick's thinking about right now? I think someone was talking about his son.
Yeah. Well, how was your week?
I had dental surgery late last week, so I was probably sleeping whenever y'all were talking.
I think that was one of the things that we said was probably happening. Yeah.
I was getting a lot of sleep to catch up from that. But yeah, I'm doing fine. Things are actually going great, but I'm also I had this repeat surgery because some of it didn't work. Listeners may recall, I won't get into it, but I am really tired of drinking protein shakes and eating soup, and I my patience for that has worn thin. But in the grand scheme of things, I'm not being battered by a big storm or I'm not sick, so
that's true.
I can't complain too much about eating protein shakes all the time. But
Yeah, and thanks for saying that. I mean, our thoughts are going out as well to a lot of the victims of the huge fucking hurricane that just hit New Orleans. You know, we've had a lot of guests. I mean, just specifically, Michael Domingue lives in New Orleans. I know he's dealing with a lot of that right now. So, if you're from New Orleans and you're listening to this, I hope you guys were able to make it safe and most of your stuff is secure, hopefully. And if not, hopefully at least you're safe. Yeah, our hearts go out to everybody who's being affected by the hurricane right now.
Totally. And all the other disasters in the world, but
but that's
blanket statement.
That's the most recent
that's
American
the one. Yeah. But moving on, we did an episode last week about storytelling in open worlds, and we also got some listener like shout outs to give to the previous episode about updates, free updates. So some of this will be about each of those. I'll start with the updates. How about that? Lee, our friend of the show, Lee, mentioned updates and Animal Crossing in particular. And then also on YouTube Record 2 brought up, they wondered what that Mario Maker 2 slot that we talked about that never really got filled out was. I think it was Super Mario Brothers 2.
You have to think that it was, and then they just stuck it inside the mushroom, right?
Yeah, that's my theory. Not my original theory, but yeah.
Yeah.
And then moving on to the more discussion about the open world storytelling episode. Shout out to Kiruseta, who always says New Switch Headz Day, which is becoming a thing. And Bucket on the Discord, who brought up some Kojima games, Metal Gear Solid 5 and Death Stranding is doing a good job telling stories in open world.
Very unique way to tell stories in those games. And
Dylan Muss on YouTube loved the thumbnail for the episode, but the episode was great too, they said. And then on Instagram, Sprowlix mentioned you discussed, David, the WarioWare Twisted cartridge, and that they mentioned that and we're appreciative of you bringing that up.
Oh yeah, I'll get into some more WarioWare again at the end of the episode. So Sprowlex, stay tuned. You're gonna get your whistle wetted.
So as evidenced by those shout outs and the main topic tonight, we appreciate listeners reaching out to us with questions or comments and leaving us reviews and sharing the podcast, posting it places. Please continue to do that.
Make sure you subscribe on YouTube if you're not yet. If you're an audio listener, that's fine. You can keep listening to audio, but hey, go subscribe anyway. Like all the videos. Does us a solid, helps the algorithm. We'd appreciate that any way we can.
So this past week, Gamescom happened, and this is the tip. Usually it's a in-person event that happens in Germany, but it was a virtual event this year again. And there were a lot of actual big announcements, it felt like, at this event. There's a lot to go through here, potentially, whatever y'all want to talk about. So if I skip something that y'all want to make sure we mention, please jump in. But to follow up on some of the things we brought up last week, some of the Switch-specific things, we'll just kind of rattle these off. Y'all cut me off. The new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game had a new trailer and a reveal of April O'Neil being a playable character. And they kind of gave us a 2022 date for that, which there's a little bit of a trend here of some delays to 2022. Super Monkey Ball, one of David's favorite games, they had kind of teased there would be a new character in a ball, and it's Morgana from the Persona 5 in particular, right?
Yeah, from Persona 5, great choice. Morgana is monkey shaped and sized, and is an animal, so that fits really well into a ball. Better than the guy from Yakuza, I'll say that. I mean, I'm happy about that too, but. So yeah, that's cool to see. Unfortunately, it sounds like Morgana is going to be $5 DLC and not included with the deluxe digital edition. So that's kind of lame. I don't know if it's worth $5 for one skin.
Yeah, for a skin.
Yeah, maybe that's some weird Atlas thing. They're getting like a cut. But I mean, it's all owned by Sega anyway, so kind of seems a little bit like a money grab. If it doesn't come with a digital deluxe edition, I'm not gonna buy that. But but it was nice to see anyway.
April O'Neil is also joining the Nickelodeon brawl game, as is it Cat Dog? Is that the other character they announced, I believe, right?
Yeah. I'll say this, man. This Nickelodeon All-Stars brawl game is starting to usurped my expectations a little bit. I think you guys remember me saying like a few episodes ago, like I was like, don't expect too many old school Nicktoons characters, but it's like, here we are, and we're getting a lot of old school Nicktoons characters. So I think it's pretty cool.
And then there's a lot of news out of this that's big, beyond the Switch scope. There's a Saints Row reboot announced for February next year. They showed off Elden Ring. Halo Infinite got a release date and a new trailer, right? Mm-hmm. Matt, is that right? They showed like multiplayer or something?
Yeah, they showed a new multiplayer kind of intro trailer. There's a whole like academy side of the multiplayer that is in conjunction with the story, and so they showed off that trailer, cinematic trailer. But yeah, we also got a release date, which is something we think we do want to get until much later. So it's actually kind of crazy that we got a release date for Halo Infinite. Like, I almost can't believe it. I don't trust it until I actually will be playing the game.
Dude, I'm straight up like not even convinced it's still gonna come out this year. Like, I don't want to be that much doom and gloom about it, but it's like, it's like what, December 8th? Is that what
December
it is?
8th, yeah.
Yeah. So December, that's like pretty much as far as it could go to the end of the year. You know what I mean? Like it definitely seems like even with the year delay that they've had already, that they still are nowhere near finished. I mean, co-op isn't coming out until like 6 months later. Forge isn't coming out for a long time. It's like, I don't know. We'll see. I have a feeling that multiplayer is going to drop on December 8th, and we're not going to get the campaign until 2022. But well, hopefully I'm wrong on that. But
yeah,
I'm not convinced.
At worst, no campaign. But right now, the plan that Microsoft is saying is single player campaign, no campaign co-op on December 8th, and multiplayer for PC and Xbox.
You believe that?
I am hopeful, and I'm hopeful. There's been tons of leaks after the technical preview of like skins for new weapons and new enemies and map names. All of that been is like slowly linking on Twitter over the last month or so. So there's like lots of content, and it's all there, whether it's actually polished and done. I just want to play the fucking game. I'm ready to play this game. I've been waiting a whole year. I'm very excited.
I was watching a little bit of, just one last thing on Halo here. I was watching the Spawncast recently, and MVG brought up a really good point that I hadn't really considered, that I think is potentially problematic about that December 8th release, is that just like, especially if they're crunching right now to get this thing out by December, if the game has bugs and needs to be patched, like, that's potentially a bunch of 343 employees that are going to have to be like working throughout the holidays. And that is a bummer. So if that is the case and it's not ready, I implore them, please just push it back again, release the multiplayer as like early access or whatever, and then have the full release come out with the co-op or whatever, like whatever you need to do. Like, let's try to avoid the whole cyberpunk thing again this time around. All right. Yeah. Anyway.
Couple other quick things on Gamescom, unless y'all have something else. I thought the Marvel's Midnight Suns game trailer looked interesting. And also there was some Horizon Forbidden West shown off with another delay to 2022 there. And then,
but early 2022, right? I think it was February.
That may be. I don't have that in front of me.
I think it was January or February. So it's even closer than I thought it was going to be. So
nice. So that was Gamescom. Lots of other stuff too, but that was some of the bigger stuff worth mentioning.
I thought that from bigger picture, I loved Gamescom. I thought it was a great presentation. It felt like really long with like lots of content. I in some cases liked it better than the E3 some of the disconnected E3 stuff. I thought Gamescom had a great showing of new games and re-releases or remakes. David, you look like you hated it.
I didn't really enjoy it that much. Yeah. I don't know. I thought it was okay. I mean, it was definitely not a bad show. I just was like a little bored. I don't know. I think it just didn't really show the games that I really wanted to see. I mean, there was the Super Monkey Ball thing, and I thought that was kind of interesting. But even then, it was like, it was a character I'm not going to buy.
You wanted
Yeah.
Tetris or Picross.
I don't know what I wanted, but it wasn't what I got.
What do
I'll tell
you
that
want,
much.
David? Tell Gamescom what you want so they can meet your need.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. Maybe I just needed a bigger Nintendo presence there or something, or
That's
any
fair.
Nintendo
Yeah,
presence
there's
there.
no-
Which historically Nintendo has shown up to Gamescom in the past, but I don't know. It just kind of definitely felt a little icky to me. I mean, that the awards they were giving out, it definitely seems like, Jeff Keighley, it's like, hey, Ubisoft, you win like the award for you. They won both awards for, it was like Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle and like another Ubisoft game won like both of the most anticipated games. It was like that. It's between that and Just Dance or something. It was like, all right, well, clearly like Ubisoft just like paid Jeff Keighley a shit ton of money to be on opening night live and like have that free advertising. So it's like, some of that stuff felt a little icky to me. But I don't know. I don't want to sour anybody's grapes. If you enjoyed I don't think that's an expression, but if you enjoyed Gamescom,
It is now. Yeah.
yeah, it's good for you. But yeah, we'll
My
see.
fucking grapes.
They're
I
all
think I might-
soured.
I like Jeff Keighley. I think that he's like a fun cheerleader. I think it's nice that we have somebody who's like for the video games industry. I might be getting to my limit on Keighley.
Mhm.
I think I am tired of seeing him once every 3 months hawk 20 games I don't care about in a row.
We
Yeah.
were joking on the Discord during Gamescom, like which white late night host is Jeff Keighley? And Patrick, you were saying like Carson Daly. Is that what you were saying?
That's a pretty good one, actually. I think Carson did. He's got the same like I will promote anything.
Yeah.
I don't think Carson Daly was a big fan of most of the acts he was talking about. Yeah,
Yeah, he'll promote anything, but he also will love everything that he touches.
yeah.
Yeah, all those people have the same energy. And yes,
Yep.
as you said, David, which blank slate white guy is he? I don't know.
Yeah.
Jeff, please come on our show. We'd love to have you on sometime.
Yeah,
Anyway.
we screwed that one up.
Yeah.
We'll move on then. Toshihiro Nagoshi, who is a developer over at Sega, may no longer be at Sega after many years. They are apparently in quote unquote final negotiations with a Chinese developer, NetEase, who I'm not very familiar with, so please correct me. But Nagoshi worked on a ton of influential game series, especially some that David really likes that we've already mentioned. He was creator of Monkey Ball, right?
Yeah, he's the creator of Monkey Ball. He was at AV for Amusement Vision before they were just folded into Sega proper. Obviously, the creator of the Yakuza series. He was the director of F-Zero GX as well. Lots of games over at Sega. He's been there for 32 years. And yeah, this is very interesting that he's kind of being poached by NetEase right now. It's got to be a huge bag that he's been offered to leave Sega after so long. But yeah, it's a big deal. I think NetEase is basically trying to compete against Tencent right now, which is like the other big Chinese developer. And the reason you haven't heard of them, Patrick, is because they mainly do like PC and mobile games,
And
which is
Chinese
also
games, probably.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Lots of gotcha stuff, free to play stuff, and so it's like that's why a lot of people are really confused by this. Because especially the Yakuza series has been like on a roll recently. With Like a Dragon and all the re-releases and everything. So people kind of thought that was a lock, that Nagoshi would be staying at Sega for a long time, but we'll kind of see how this plays out. This could also be just like public negotiation. You see this happen in Hollywood a lot where like stories leak about final negotiations for people being sent different places. And so maybe he's doing this to have Sega give him a raise. You know what I mean? So we'll see kind of how this plays out.
Yeah. This is kind of taking a step back to take a step forward, but I was reading some stuff about that Saints Row announcement and about how, the new Saints Row apparently is sort of scaled back, or not scaled back, but like tone wise scaled back and not as crazy and offensive or ridiculous. And, about that being a bad thing, but it made me think about well, No More Heroes 3 just came out, and apparently that game is ridiculous. So I don't think we're totally away from ridiculous games. But No More Heroes 3 came out this past week. That was a terrible introduction.
Segway King.
Yeah, nailed it. I didn't want to sour anybody's grapes on No More Heroes 3, but if I did, I apologize. So it's reviewed okay. Right, it's sitting around 74 on Metacritic. That's pretty good.
Pretty good.
It had a weird embargo thing that was going on. Like apparently there was originally an embargo that people couldn't, post reviews or talk about the game until after the game came out, which is not
Usually not a good sign.
Yeah, usually not a good sign, right? But that got reversed kind of at the last minute. So I don't know what was going on with that. If that was like a weird joke or if it raised red flags so they realized they shouldn't do that or what, I don't know. But what do y'all think about that? Any of the embargo stuff or this game? Are you interested in it or?
Yeah, Matt, I know you said you were interested in this game. Have you played it yet?
I have not played it yet, but I'm interested in it because a lot of the reviews are saying like No More Heroes 3, a lot of style, little substance, and that's okay. I'm paraphrasing a lot of it, but it's very stylistic and very weird and very strange, which appeals to me as a person. It doesn't necessarily have to be good, but if it's fun, that's what I'm looking for these days. It doesn't have to be a great game. It doesn't have to be the next Breath of the Wild, but it's fun and silly and ridiculous. I miss those kind of games. Reminds me of games like God Hand on PS2, which is like over the top. That's what I love. Let's be ridiculous just because we can. I'm gonna play it.
Yeah, everything I've been hearing is basically that like the combat is great, the style is incredible, the music is really, really great. But then it's like just really like a 5-hour game that's being stretched out with really poorly implemented open world sections. You know what I mean? Like basically any time that Travis Touchdown goes out into the kind of open world hub, the game really chugs. It has really bad frame rate issues, and the game starts to stutter and all this kind of stuff. And that also that stuff just isn't that interesting to do. I mean, I don't know that I'll play this game. I've never really been a big Suda fan. I haven't played any of the No More Heroes games before this. I wasn't like a big Killer 7 fan or anything when I played that. I mean, although that game has a lot of fans. So I don't know that I'll check this out. And these reviews, like kind of middling reviews, it kind of seems like really this game is made for fans of the No More Heroes series already. You know what I mean? So I don't think this one's going to win me over, but
right.
But I'd love to hear if anybody listening to this right now has been playing the game. This seems to be a game that like is very love it or hate it. So I'd love to hear feedback from anybody listening to this right now that has played it so far.
And then some Metroid news, not officially part of Gamescom, but dropped during that event. There's a new Metroid Dread trailer, which I have not watched. Full disclosure.
Also,
Matthew, you're raising your hand.
Full disclosure too. I know this trailer. I don't know if we're about to talk to it, but it has some like minor spoilers in it. So that's why I haven't watched it.
Yeah, I did watch it, and I was also like, should I be seeing this right now?
Yeah.
It was like, it definitely seemed like, okay, that seemed like a pretty big story point right there that just got spoiled in this trailer. That having been said, it fucking got me hyped as hell. I thought it looked really, really good. But yeah, maybe if you haven't seen it yet and you want to be unspoiled, we won't talk about those big story points here.
I have nothing to say. I haven't watched it.
yeah. And that's probably, if you're trying to remain totally virginal to this gameplay, then I think that's probably a good idea. But just as far as the gameplay is concerned, it looks so good. Just all the mechanics that they've added into this. It seems like the culmination of 2D Metroid really up to this point. I'm really, really excited to play this.
Awesome. Yeah. So I've been avoiding these and I will continue to then, especially on that advice. We're not too far away from this. We're getting close to a month here.
Yeah. I'm trying to slam the rest of the Metroid games right now so I can finish them in time.
Well, there is a fan made 2D version of Metroid Prime that got shown off not too long ago, I guess. Earlier in the year, they announced that they were working on this. A group of fans that called themselves, I guess, Team SCU, and put out like a demo of this game. And unsurprisingly, that has been taken down and is no longer happening, at least officially, because of Nintendo telling them, hey, that's our IP, you can't do this. But the visuals of this thing looked pretty cool. I don't know if y'all checked this out. I don't think I'd heard of this, or maybe we talked about it when it came out, but I don't remember.
Yeah, we talked about it when they released the demo for it.
Gotcha.
But it was really cool. I mean, it's like, it was cool too because it was a PC game, and like you aimed your arm with the mouse. It was, you kind of moved the reticle around, and Samus would kind of follow wherever you aimed. But it was incredible. It was in the works for years and years, and then they released the demo, and it was like, what, 2 months later, and Nintendo's like, nope.
Yeah.
I think if a 2D Metroid had not been releasing this year, they might have been able to get away with it. But this is what happened to AM2R, so.
Yeah, that's funny. Fan-made Metroid games have a bad
at least AM2R
issue.
is finished. You can like find it on torrent sites and shit. Like it's not hard to find.
Somewhat similarly, there's an event called the Riptide, which is a tournament event that's happening soon, and it has Splatoon and Smash Brothers tournament, Ultimate, as well as like Melee. And then it also was supposed to have Project Plus, which is a mod of Brawl. It's a mod of a mod, right? Project M, which is well known. But that is no longer happening because they announced it and Nintendo told them not to do that. And so, there's another Nintendo taking down something the fans are doing with their game.
That's pretty fucking stupid. I think this one's really dumb. Yeah. I don't think Nintendo should have done this one. This, because this was an in-person event, right?
I think that's a good guess. I know usually it is or whatever, but I don't know a ton about this. I just know that happened. And
so it's like, who cares what people are, it's like they're playing all these other first-party Nintendo games. Like, who cares if they're playing a mod of Brawl? Like, it's like, why is this really a problem? I don't know.
It's like, why is me emulating Duck Hunt a problem or whatever? Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder who kind of initiated this, if it was like NCL or NOA or what branch of Nintendo took this down.
That's a good question.
Seems like an NCL decision.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. And then in more sort of things changing news, Blizzard is changing the name of one of its characters in Overwatch in reaction to all the news that we've been talking about with the lawsuit alleging a lot of sexual harassment, among other difficult things to deal with. McCree is one of the characters in Overwatch, the sort of like gunslinger, right? Western style character who is based on a developer who is now left the company after all of this news is broken. So they've announced they're renaming this character. I don't think they've said to what yet, though, right? It's a great chance for Bodie McBoatface for them to do an internet poll, right?
You want a cowboy type character to be called Bodie McBoatface?
Well, more like I want that, or I want them to like, given everything that's happening, we want the fans to decide.
Yeah.
I want it to be, I was hoping they would rename him to Washington Football Team.
Yeah. The Cleveland baseball team.
Yeah.
A generic robot cowboy guy.
Yeah, I think but basically the news here is that, I mean, obviously he's getting renamed and that's a good thing. I don't think that they need to keep that. I think a lot of people were complaining and they're like, all right, fuck it, we'll change it. But I think this did push back a whole story arc that they were doing with one of their characters, because McCree was going to play a big part in that, and I think was referenced by name in a lot of the animation and cutscenes that they had done. So they were like, hey, please understand, we're pushing back the release of this expansion or whatever. I'm not sure what they call them, and like flights, or I don't know what they call them in Overwatch. But so that's been pushed back. So it's like there have been some ramifications of this, and they're basically like, that's going to happen in 2022 now, while we figure this out, re-record stuff, and figure out what we're doing with the character.
And then recently, Square announced that Bravely Default 2, previously a Switch exclusive, is going to be out on Steam very soon, actually, September. By the time this podcast comes out, I believe that, or roughly around then, September 2nd. So that's great news for PC gamers that want to play this game. I think stuff like this is, sometimes there's a reaction that it's a bad thing, but I think it's a good thing usually. I mean, also it shows that Square, because they did this with Octopath Traveler too, right? Square doesn't really want to have a long-term, and they did it with Dragon Quest 11S or whatever. Square doesn't want to have a long-term Switch exclusive. It seems like,
and that's fine. I think that's great. I think, like, whenever they released Octopath Traveler on Steam, it did really, really well, and then eventually released on Game Pass too, right? So it's like, I think that's right. So I would imagine this is probably going to come to Game Pass as well, just like Dragon Quest 11 did. So if you have an Xbox or Game Pass on PC, maybe wait a second.
It did come to Game Pass.
Yeah.
Whether it's on there today, I don't know, but it did.
Yeah.
And then Lance Barr is retiring from Nintendo. He's not resigning. I guess, I don't know, maybe same thing.
Disgraced Nintendo of America employee Lance Barr resigns.
He was involved at Nintendo of America for a long time, and is known for helping to design some of the consoles, the North American version of the consoles, right? They look differently. The Famicom looks different than the NES, and so on and so forth. As well as I understand it, some other hardware that, like the light gun, that's what it's called, right?
The Zapper.
The Zapper.
Damn, how old is this guy?
Yeah, he should have resigned years ago.
Yeah. He's done the NES Zapper, the arcade stick, NES Advantage, and the
Did
NES
he design
Max.
Rob? I guess that was a Japanese thing. I guess he was designing.
I don't know. Yeah.
It was Jabbermite.
So, not somebody I've heard much about or thought about, but that's nice to hear this news to be aware of the things that they've worked on when you hear this. So
yeah, I mean, obviously that's a storied career at Nintendo and an unsung power player in the company. And so I apologize, Lance Barr, for saying that you were disgraced. You clearly are responsible for many, many things in millions of people's childhoods. So thank you for that.
Congratulations. We would love to have you on the podcast to talk about the Zapper for.
We'll have you
minutes.
and Jeff Keighley on.
Yeah, we don't want to sour their grapes. There's some news that just broke today, the day we're recording this, that China has set some limits for people who are under the age of 18, minors, from playing online games. And we know it's very likely because of their infrastructure, they'll actually be able to enforce this, because otherwise it would sound unenforceable. That only on weekends, on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, can children play online games, and only for an
1 hour.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Between 8 p.m. and 9 p.m. on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Not just 1 hour, a specific hour, as I understand it, the way it's being reported. So that's
one way to kill your servers. Funnel all gameplay into 1 hour. That's the same for everybody.
That's a good point I hadn't thought about.
Yeah.
How do you monitor this? Like,
They can do it. They've got the great firewall, right? Like I'm
sure VPNs and all that kind of stuff will continue to be a thing, and people will figure out ways around it, but not your average person, right? Or not, the younger children and that kind of thing.
Yeah. This is just the kind of stuff that gives me like pause when we talk about, Nagoshi going to work for, a Chinese video game company, or Tencent getting bigger and bigger stakes into Western and Japanese companies. And this is the same kind of stuff we see in Hollywood as well, as Tencent and a lot of Chinese corporations begin to get more and more into Hollywood. It's like you start to see games being throttled by Chinese censorship and Chinese regulation, and then that has worldwide ramifications. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And so you hate to see stories like this, is what I'm saying. And I really hope that I really hope that enough people do use VPNs or find ways around it to where they have to just get rid of this rule altogether.
Yeah.
Because it seems like a really bad move.
Speaking of, that's why this podcast episode is brought to you by NordVPN. Use promo code Final Fantasy VII Remake Concert in Dallas.
Yeah.
Switch
Well,
it.
I do think we did just blow our chance of getting Xi Jinping on the
Well,
Not to
let me
sour
shit on the.
hit their groups.
Let me also lower our chance of getting U.S. politicians on as well. Like I think there's a lot of fear mongering about China, and it's not to say that China is a great place, but I think sometimes that's done in our media, especially, and like we just to ignore some of the problems of the U.S. and the West and all that. So like. We live in a terrible country as well, I guess that's what I'm saying. But when you hear stories like this, definitely it's different kinds of problems. And that's
I mean, there's, I think the most recent episode of Real Time with Bill Maher, they kind of, this was his whole thing at the end of the show where it was like stuff like this puts into perspective a lot of the stuff that we complain about as far as like censorship in media and stuff like that here in the US. You know what I mean? It's like, anyway, maybe this isn't the point you were trying to make, Patrick, but it's like there are times where we're like, man, everything is like pretty rough and we give people a lot of shit, but it's like, at least we don't have it to where like kids can't play video games except for 1 hour on weekends.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know if that was the point you were trying to make.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's like, I don't know that I had a great point other than that. I feel like sometimes we shit on China and maybe there are other things to shit on too. But when you hear stuff like this, it's easy to see why.
So,
they're not doing themselves any favors.
Patrick, what you're saying is we should shit on China, but also don't forget to shit on ourselves.
Yeah. Don't forget to shit on ourselves.
Yeah. And if you're listening to us in China, congratulations, your VPN has made it through the firewall.
Yeah. Once again, this episode is sponsored by NordVPN.
But in a bit of good news for global reach of video games, Nintendo is launching an eShop in some countries that it hasn't had one in particular, some South American countries, Argentina, Colombia, Chile, and Peru.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we recently discussed this happening in Brazil, which was also a good thing. This is good news. I think, in that part of the world, it's been hard to get maybe official, access to these things, or they would have to import games or buy them in different, regions and that kind of thing. So that's cool. And it sounds like it's going to happen pretty soon.
Yeah,
so that is a good thing.
This is awesome news. I love this. These are the kinds of stories I love to see because it's like, Nintendo in the past year or so really started opening up to Brazil, like we talked about before. And because of that, we've seen just this great influx of Brazilian game developers as well, putting games out on the Switch. One of them, Kaze and the Wild Masks, that game that I was a huge fan of. They're Brazilian devs. And so this kind of stuff you just love to see because it's like the more access that people have to games, and like you said, South America has just been bereft of good Nintendo representation for such a long time. The more access that people have to the games means the more people will be playing them, the more people will be developing them, and then the more that people around the world can enjoy, the creativity of all these people that have not been able to really have a voice on the global stage before. So I love this story, and I can't wait for this to open up all over South America. Let's go.
Awesome. Well, that's it then for our news segment, and we'll take a short break. And when we come back, we're going to be answering your questions. All right, so we are back, and this week we are taking some listener questions. We did this for the first time on our 100th episode, and we figured we're going to do this every once in a while. We have some questions we've received from still from back then, as well as several new ones actually. So, and some we're going to hold on to because we only have so much time, but we'll do this again. So should we do any more fanfare there? Like, do any other introductory?
No more bloviating required. The ado is finished. Let's move right into it.
That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
We'll move right into it then. So our first question that we're going to take is from Ivy. They ask, would love to hear y'all's opinions on the best games to play if you're wanting to get into some of the bigger titles. Zelda, Metroid, Pokemon, Donkey Kong, etc., and maybe even a recommended order to play them in, and maybe which ones are available on the Switch or NSO. So, this is a big one potentially, but we can maybe just tackle some of those big franchises. Yeah, what are some of the best ways to get into these tentpole Nintendo franchises if you haven't ever done it? What do y'all think?
Well, I think a good one to start with, just because it's very timely right now, is Metroid. Because a lot of people have been asking, with Metroid 5 coming out, Metroid Dread, what's the best way to get into it? And a lot of people give a lot of different answers. A lot of people say Fusion, because it's the game that's right before this one, so it'll kind of catch you up to the story. But I've been doing the starting at Metroid 1 and going forward, and I really think that has been a really great way to do it. So my opinion, whenever anybody asks me this question on how to get into the Metroid series, and unfortunately you'll have to emulate it because there are no Game Boy Advance games on the Switch currently, but I think the best way to get into the Metroid series is to start with Zero Mission. I don't know if you guys would agree with that, but I think like going Zero Mission straight into Samus Returns, into Super Metroid, and then Fusion is like a really great way to experience that series. And especially because Super Metroid holds up so well. Like, that's the one that I'm playing currently. Like, it doesn't feel like I'm taking a step back, like having just played Samus Returns and now playing Super Metroid. It just like has felt like a really great natural progression of gameplay through the story, even with all the quality of life enhancements that Samus Returns had for the 3DS. So if you're interested at all in the Metroid series and you haven't played it at all yet, I would really recommend starting with Zero Mission. It's just a great game and a really faithful recreation of the first game in the series, but just makes it better in pretty much every single way. That's just Metroid specifically. But
yeah, I think that kind of method of thinking of like, you are playing starting with Zero Mission, so you can better enjoy Dread. So you have like a specific goal in mind to play through the series, and I think that's a really good way to think about enjoying some of these franchises. If there's a new entry in the franchise coming out, and you want to really appreciate the franchise and its growth, so you can fully enjoy something, that's a really good measurement to really get engulfed in the story. Sometimes it's really daunting, especially if you're new to video games, to like, which Zelda should I play? There's so many. There's the handheld ones. There's the console ones. You can play the Panasonic CDI hotel one.
Don't do that.
Yeah, you should not. You should never do that. But you might be you might want to. But just to think, like, if you're trying to lead up to something, that kind of gives the call to action to enjoy the series. So when that new game, say Breath of the Wild 2 comes out, if you wanted to take the time to really enjoy how far Zelda has come, maybe have a clear goal in mind that you want to do. I think that's maybe what you're saying. I think that's a good way to go about it.
Yeah. Go ahead, Patrick.
Yeah, I was just going to say, this is sort of a different take, and it's maybe a broader answer than any specific of series, but is that something I've been doing in the Switch era is trying to play franchises that I've never played with whatever entry comes out on the Switch, because that's accessible, and then maybe you discover you like or don't like it. And also, and this is a broad generalization, but some of the better games are the newer ones. You know, they have quality of life improvements, et cetera, like, and also just they've figured out the formula. That's not to say that maybe every newest version of every major series is the best ever, but you know, if you've never played a Zelda game, And Breath of the Wild is a pretty great game. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
if you've never played a Donkey Kong game, Tropical Freeze might be the best one.
Although with Donkey Kong specifically, I would disagree. I think that like I mean, yes, of course, you could play Tropical Freeze right now. It's on your Switch, but it's like if you have a Switch, then you probably also have Nintendo Switch Online.
Right.
I feel like most people, you know, it's so cheap, and so a lot of people have it in order to play online games. And for the Donkey Kong franchise, Donkey Kong 1, 2, and 3 are all on NSO, and those are timeless classics. Those play just as well today as they did when they came out. And so I think that it's worth playing 1, 2, and 3 before you play Tropical Freeze personally, as far as Donkey Kong is concerned. I mean, I know, Patrick, you've gone back and played the original ones as well. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I still think Tropical Freeze is the best. And if you're going to just play one, why not start there? But we can have different opinions about this,
Yeah.
right? And
I think
I
there's
think the
this,
quality of life stuff is part of it. But you can also, you know,
there's
have
like a
save states.
social pressure that people have, like, in order to really appreciate something for today, you need to play everything.
Yeah.
You have to play all the Metroids in order to play Dread. You have to play all the Legend of Zelda, or all the Star Fox, or all the Pokemon games to enjoy Sword and Shield. But that's not true. I think generally, like, fuck the pressure. Doesn't matter if there's any social pressure. If you're playing the game and you enjoy it, continue to play it. If you don't, time to move on.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm trying to get at. And I, assuming this question kind of has that sort of, I have a Switch, what should I do to get into these series? Maybe see if you like the most recent one. And a lot of those are pretty good. So
Sure. And I'd add on to that too. If a game is not available on the Switch and that's the only system you have, just emulate it. I think that's
Yeah.
fine. If there's no good way to buy Ocarina of Time, but you want to get into 3D Zelda games that aren't Breath of the Wild, that's not that big of a deal, I think, to emulate Ocarina of Time. I mean, if Nintendo ever releases it in a bundle, great, do it that way, you know. But I think that is fine. Also, just real quickly, as far as Zelda is concerned, if you want to get into the 2D Zelda games, a lot of people are like, just play A Link to the Past. It's a masterpiece. And they're right. But I would say if you have a Switch, a good way to get into it is maybe actually playing the Link's Awakening remake first, because that's a pretty good representation of what top-down 2D Zeldas are like. And if you like that style, then go in and play A Link to the Past, because you'll get a lot out of it after having played, you know, comparatively, like, story-wise, and a lot more obscure and strange Zelda game. Then you go back and play A Link to the Past, and you're like, oh, okay, this is 2D Zelda. You know what I mean? So I would recommend starting with the remake of Link's Awakening and then going back to A Link to the Past personally.
Yeah, that might make sense. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it might be a shorter, easier game too.
It is a bit shorter. Yeah. Also, this has nothing to do with this, but you were talking about Nintendo series that people need to play. Everybody play Rhythm Heaven. There's a bunch of Rhythm Heaven games and nobody ever talks about them, and they're all fucking masterpieces. So play the Rhythm Heaven series, no matter how you can get them. Play them right now.
Well, I don't know if Ivy's happy with that answer, but
I am.
It's a great plug for our Discord and our recommendations channel.
yeah, there you go.
True.
Yeah, and that would be the other thing. Maybe somebody you trust, right? Like that's into the series, which
or
is what
knows
Ivy
your
is trying
gaming
to
habits.
do.
Yeah.
But yeah. Our next question comes from DCD. And I love this question. If you could take one swing with a wooden bat at each Nintendo system, which has the best chance of survival? So, you know, we can assume this is a pretty strong swing, I would think.
If you only have one swing, yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good swing.
It's a wooden bat. It's not aluminum.
Yeah, not metal.
So one that's going to actually do some damage. Yeah.
I knew we were going to analyze this.
Yeah. And are we talking consoles? It says systems, or is that both
system?
handheld?
To me, that's handhelds and consoles.
Yeah, I think this is a twofold question. I mean, first of all, I'll tell you this: the NES would just crumple like tinfoil if you hit it with a bat. That thing would just like break apart, right? I think that the NES like just doesn't. NESs that are in like pristine condition just stop working, you know. So that one would die immediately.
Yeah.
But I think the Super Nintendo and the N64 could both take a good swing from a bat and work pretty fine. Those things are built like bricks.
Yeah, I was gonna not make it a 2-part question and just say the Game Boy. I think would do pretty well, assuming you have a quality working Game Boy to begin with.
The Game Boy has famously survived bomb blasts.
Right. That's what makes me think the Game Boy has a good chance.
They also used to just drop Game Boy Advances from like 20-story windows in order to test their durabilities. So I think they could handle a bat strike pretty well.
I don't think the Switch would fare that great, though.
No, that thing would bust apart immediately. It's
Joy-Cons.
90% screen.
Yeah.
Your Joy-Cons would have a lot of drift.
And I thought about, oh God, I thought about like a GameCube. I was like, oh, that's pretty tough. But then I was like, oh, it's an optical disc reader. Nah, that's fucked.
But it's also, the GameCube is dense. You know what I mean? It's like, it's densely packed, which I feel like would take a lot of the shock of the bat strike as well.
Yeah. I think your initial argument for the 64 or the SNES works well for the same reason that Matt also just said, that they're cartridge based. And I think that, even though the NES wasn't, like you said, it had that flap and the where things were located, that's probably not going to work so great.
If you breathe on the NES wrong, it doesn't work.
So do we have to pick one? Can we pick one?
Game Boy.
I'm gonna say Game Boy.
Yeah, let's go with Game Boy.
Okay.
Thing's a brick.
So, home run.
So, our next question comes from the Huge 27. If only 3 series or franchises were able to continue making games, only 3, which would you choose and why? This wasn't even specified to be Nintendo, so I'm gonna assume this is all of gaming, but we can assume it's just Nintendo. What do y'all think?
I assumed it was Nintendo.
Okay. We can just assume Nintendo. That's fine.
Yeah, I think that narrows it down. Yeah, that narrows
makes
it down
it easier.
A little bit. I have some answers for this one that I feel are pretty well thought out, but I don't know if you guys would agree with me. Maybe I can posit them and you guys can tell me if you agree or not.
That sounds great.
I would love to tell you my opinion.
So my 3, I mean, 2 of them are obvious, right? 2 of them are Mario and Zelda, but here are my reasonings. So Mario, I think you would want to keep, as much as I love Donkey Kong Country, if we could or in the Donkey Kong franchise, if we could only keep 3, it would be Mario, because then you would have your 3D and 2D platformers covered. You know what I mean? So you could have, so that covers so many kinds of games there, right?
Right. Mario is like a way to sneak in every game.
Right. Yeah. You could have sports there, you could do party and whatever, right? Like, as much as I love Clubhouse Games 51 Worldwide Classics, you could slap a Mario skin on that thing and be totally fine. Then obviously Zelda, I think you would keep, because, you'd be able to keep the Zelda games, which is the main thing. But then also I feel like you could do traditional like JRPGs within the Zelda franchise as well, like we kind of saw with Zelda 2. And so I think that would be our way to be able to kind of keep that, right? And then I think you could also do like strategy even in there, and a couple other genres of games you could put within that Zelda umbrella. So yeah, there's that. And then thirdly, mine would be Star Fox. And hear me out on this. It would be Star Fox just because of the number of genres you could cover by that game. Like you could do all your flying type games, you could do racing games, shooting, also strategy. You could do stuff with like that. Like I'm just thinking of the number of genres you would have to cover by these franchises.
You're slowly sneaking into Star Fox Grand Prix.
yeah, exactly.
Into this, yeah.
It exists, God damn it, I know it's real. Anyway, what do you guys think about that?
This is tough. Mario for sure. Yeah. I was thinking kind of more specifically like Mario Odyssey of a release of a franchise. I would say Mario Odyssey. Mario Odyssey was very joyful for me. I had a great fucking time. It gave us Steam Gardens, the best Mario song of all time. Yeah.
I used to rule the world.
Yeah. I think Mario Odyssey would be one of my choices. And the second and third, the third one would be a joke. No, I'll get to that in just a little bit.
It's the town.
Yeah, I fucking love that game. Love Town season 1. Go listen to the season finale. Ah, man, I don't know. This is tough. I would probably say Zelda. Yeah, it'd have to be.
You have
Breath
to
of the
keep
Wild.
Zelda.
Yeah.
I would have to be Breath of the Wild. Fucking love Breath of the Wild. And then my third choice would be Wave Race, baby. Let's bring it back.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm okay with the only 3 games Nintendo ever makes again are Mario, Zelda, and Wave Race. I'm
Just
totally fine with that.
Think about it. You can do everything on a jet ski. You could put Mario on a jet ski. You could put Kirby on a jet ski. Call it Wave Race.
Yeah.
Man,
That's something we didn't cover with that I didn't cover with my thing is fighting games.
yeah.
You can make a jet skis fight.
What about
You have a
say
Mario
Smash?
fighting game, yeah.
Just have it be just say Smash, and then that covers all games.
Yeah, that was what I was wondering. It's like it's the inverted thing, though, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
You're looking for the
I think-
loopholes.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe we're not following the spirit of the question then.
Yeah, probably not.
But totally, I think Mario and Zelda make a lot of sense. And then if we're talking about just Nintendo franchises, that third one is tough because I feel like there's a lot of contenders there, and it's hard to not just make a joke. I
was pretty serious about Star Fox. I think like having a good science fiction thing lets you do a lot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you could fold Metroid style games into Star Fox.
I was
you could
thinking
fold
about
racing
saying Metroid,
games. Yeah. It's like I'm trying to think of stuff that you could tell lots of different kinds of stories and have different gameplay experiences within.
Yeah, I think I would say Metroid then
Yeah.
to just be a little different because I love the Metroidvania style games, and then you also have the Prime games, FPS games, and
That's true.
Same reasoning, right? You could maybe Metroid Pinball. We could-
Well, it's not to love.
But again, fuck Pokemon. All right.
All right. So
I like Pokemon. I'm just playing.
moving on. Our next question comes from KSB OKC. And this is a long one. It's got a lot of lead in. So here goes. See if
What,
you can
Kyle
stay
with a long question? What? I've never heard of that before.
See if you can follow me reading Kyle's question. With the current market in gaming as robust as it is, with outstanding entries in every device sector and entities starting to zero in on practically perfect online gaming service, the general zeitgeist is that this boom cycle is here to stay. If economic history teaches us anything, it's that humans repeatedly overestimate the durability of such a bullish market. We've seen this expansion, peak, contraction, trough cycle numerous times, most recently with the OPEC embargo, energy sector bust, the savings and loan crisis, the dot-com bubble, the subprime crisis, and specific sectors of the economy. My question is, where do you think Nintendo, and by extension, the gaming industry sector, sits on this cyclical pattern? So, rapid fire answers. No, we should unpack this a little bit, right? I think if I had to summarize Kyle's question, the way I read it is that there is a large sort of boom bust cycle in a lot of economics, right? So something gets really popular, or that's being produced a lot. There's big demand for it, and then it busts, right? Like that demand was not as big as they thought. It can't have that continued growth. And so where is video games in that cycle of like, because it's growing so much right now, does it have a lot more room for growth, or is it kind of overinflated? And, teams that are hiring lots of people are going to have to fire them and not be able to ship these games because there's not as much demand or whatever. That's I don't know if that's exactly what he intended to ask, but that's sort of my interpretation.
Yeah. I mean, I don't see gaming going anywhere ever, to be honest. I can't see, I don't see gaming as a bubble that is going to burst. And I think a lot of the differences, if we're talking about OPEC or energy sector stuff, it's like, I think it's a little bit different. I think you have to view it not as like an industry, but as a form of media, right? Like when movies came out, people were like, oh, okay, yeah, this will only be around for a bit, but then we'll go back to radio, and that's like not really what happened. Like movies were here to stay, and they've evolved. Yeah. And I think gaming will continue to evolve, and we'll find things within gaming that will become their own kind of offshoots. Right. But I think as a whole, I think it's just, interactive media is what you could really call gaming. And I think it's just going to turn into different stuff, but I think it'll always be here in one way or another. I don't know if you guys agree with that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the gaming industry as a form of entertainment, as a separate, similar piece of media like movies or TV shows, or theater or whatever, is always going to be here. But the things that shifts within the industry, those are the things that Nintendo is at risk of. And I think the big shift from gaming as a service, and specifically online gaming, Nintendo is really far behind on online gaming services, and offering their games in an easy way. I think that's the biggest risk for Nintendo is services generally and online services in order to support their user base.
I think y'all are right, but I think what Kyle is right about is that is a couple things. One, which we can't really see because that's kind of the nature of this, right? But the other one is like, is hardware going to be as dominant as it is right now? You know what I mean? Are people going to be buying boxes to put in their houses? And the other one is, it's like, if you had said in 1995 that music would bust, people would be like, whatever, music is huge. People are buying CDs like crazy over there. You know what I mean? But 5 years later, CD sales were tanking because of, Napster and stuff like that, right?
Okay. Yeah, I guess that's one way. I hadn't really considered that.
People are buying games right now, right? But is there a potential future scenario where people aren't buying games because they're available through Game Pass or something? You know what I mean? Is that, and could that shift the stuff?
A subscription.
Sure.
I think those things are starting to happen, and if Game Pass is super successful, that could disrupt how games are made. And I think it already is. There are some games that like maybe aren't selling as well that were day one Game Pass games. I don't know. I'm not an expert on any of this, but I think those things that are harder to see. I think you were right, David, that like gaming is here to stay as a media, and it's only going to grow to an extent. Like maybe there's a ceiling, but like more and more people are playing games. It's being more and more acceptable. But will people continue to buy boxes and continue to buy individual games at increasing prices and that kind of stuff? I don't know. That might be closer to the end than we think.
I agree with you on that. I think that if we're talking about the gaming industry as like hardware and discs and shipping and box stores, totally. I mean, I think that is going to go the way of the CD. But what hasn't died is music.
Concerts.
Yeah, like
well, like, it'll have to pivot to something else.
There's more music available now than at any point ever in history. Like everybody and their dog can put out a fucking record, you know what I mean, on Bandcamp or whatever, right? And it's like, I mean, yeah, of course, like the record industry might be dying, but like humans have an insatiable urge to consume entertainment and
to create
and leisure and to create. And so I think that like, and especially as we see, and this has been kickstarted even more so by COVID, but the kind of individualization of society, we go out less, we're in a lot more, where we talk to each other over the internet, social media has like connected us, but it's also distanced us in a lot of ways. Gaming fits into that a huge amount, for better or for worse, right? And so I think that is like a trend that I can't see slowing down anytime soon. I think that, yeah, Game Pass and streaming and all this kind of stuff is going to change the way we get stuff, but it's just games themselves are here to stay, and if everything is just on your phones in the future, that's kind of a shitty future, but we'll still be gaming,
And before we move on, maybe we can just talk about Nintendo specifically now that we've kind of all gone around and kind of fleshed out this question a little bit more. Like, how does Nintendo sit on this? I mean, right now they're doing so great, and I think that will continue for a while, and the Switch will continue to do really well. But I think depending on some of those other changes and Nintendo's ability to go with them, because we know they are not always the most jumping on bandwagons or open to change. I could see Nintendo flipping at some point if people aren't willing to buy games anymore or whatever.
If I've learned anything in this godforsaken life, It's never count out Nintendo. You know what I mean? Straight up. Like whenever they're down, they always come back with something that changes the entire industry, and everybody follows in lockstep with whatever they've done. And I just think, I mean, that's why I love doing this podcast. That's why I love like talking about them on the reg, is because they're innovators and they're trailblazers. And I think that like, yeah, I mean, the whole rest of the industry can crumble. Nintendo has reserves, and I think they would come up with something that would all of a sudden everybody would be like, oh, this is the new thing. And everybody would follow in their step. I don't know what that is, obviously, because I'm not as innovative as Nintendo. But anyway, that's my take on that.
One word: wave race.
Wave race is the future of entertainment.
It's the only franchise that can make games.
Yeah, that's it. Also, it's just before we move on, a small rumbling that's happening is just unionization inside the gaming industry, and how that'll affect the rest of the industry, and how that'll affect the frequency in which we see games. Whether we stop seeing like games released every year, like a game like Call of Duty, maybe with unionization, prices increase, and that changes consumer mentality of how much they want to pay for games or how often they pay for games. And I think that has some correlation of how, as workers get more rights, I don't know how that will affect Nintendo, but it'll have some effect, especially how they interact with third parties.
Mm-hmm.
Well, next question then.
Yeah.
All right. This one is another one from our friend DCD. And this question is, what's your favorite episode that you've done? So here's a lighter or more podcast centric question. We've done this is our 129th episode, but technically more like our 140 something. I'd have to do the math.
If you count specials.
We've done a number of, a dozen or so special episodes.
Add 10 if you count playing it wrong.
There you go. So what about y'all? What is your favorite episode that we've done? I'll go.
Yeah.
Since
Patrick,
y'all don't seem ready.
I mean, I'm ready, but I don't want to go first every time.
Fair enough. I'll go then. I think it's easy to jump to the sillier episodes is my favorite. And maybe that's not fair, but it kind of is. And, you talked about Steam Gardens earlier, but I think one of my favorite episodes that we did is the Steam Gardens versus Gusty Garden.
Yeah, that was a fun one.
Debate episode. That
was a Matt joint, right? Like that was your idea, right, Matt?
Yeah. I think that was all of our idea. That's if you're curious listening, that's falls in between episodes 97 and 98, Gusty Garden versus Steam Gardens.
Yeah, that one was fun. Anyone where we get to do like production on it is fun. Like some music in the background or something.
All the bit ones are ones that jump to mind when I think of my favorite episodes. I don't know if there are other like y'all's favorites or people that listen's favorites, but when we can mix up the formula, that feels fun.
So like the Tsum Tsum one or like
that's a good call. I hadn't even thought about this. The Tsum Tsum's got to be up there.
Yeah.
As well.
I think what comes to mind is like the episode that I tell people that aren't casual gamers that I meet at parties. I suggest the David Wise episode. That was a good get. That's a great episode. It makes us look cool. It impresses people.
Just a random episode.
Yeah. But that's the one I talk about. But I think that's the one I introduce people to and tell them about. They have no idea that their friend makes a Nintendo podcast. But I think Disney Tsum Tsum Festival, for its sheer ridiculousness of us like talking about Ice Cream Stacker for like a good 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Like that absurdity that we had an entire episode with Chris McKeever was very fun. Chris was just a great gift for that. I know. I think Tsum Tsum is like one of our top listened to episodes, and it's definitely like a fan favorite. I really enjoy that episode as well. I don't have a favorite, but I have a few favorites, some of which we've talked about already. I really loved our episode. It's our second most viewed episode on YouTube is the sex and video games episode because it has titties in the thumbnail, which is I think why it has so many clicks. But it's like, I do love that episode, and I think that was a really interesting kind of more fringe topic that I thought we
we did really well. And I loved having Kim on that episode. We got to get Kim back on the show at some point. I really liked that episode. I really loved the Mario Kart tips and tricks episode just because it was fun to do an episode with my brother, and he's just like a fucking expert at that game. So like having somebody who just really knows what the fuck they're talking about was awesome. The video game music episode that we did with Corduroy was amazing. And that's another one where it's like it was fun for me to work on that episode because it was editing a lot of the music in, and it felt more Radio Labby in a way, to have the kind of stuff in the background. And I'd love to do another video game music episode as well at some point. And then a couple just shout outs. Dreamcast Headz was awesome. I really enjoyed that. Was like the longest bit we've done, just ETA. You know what I mean? Just being bullshitting the entire time. I love that. I love doing all the episodes from the hospital when I was in the hospital. You guys bringing the all the equipment in back when we were doing this in person into the hospital was incredible, and was kind of really moving for me that you guys cared that much about the show that you would bring it to me. And then another more serious answer as well. Just like whenever we would get real, like whenever there were serious world events that would happen, and we just kind of talked about them. So like whenever COVID started and we were first doing this Zoom format, we did a whole episode on just like what our fears were about COVID, and when the big freeze happened in Texas and we lost power, and we kind of just gave ourselves like a half hour, 45 minutes to just talk about what was going on in our lives. I really cherish that kind of stuff. And it's like, those are the moments you really cherish having a platform, I think, because you can just like kind of be real and open with your audience about the kind of stuff that's going on in your lives. So, and anybody who's listened to those episodes and wasn't just like, when the fuck are they going to get to the games? Like, right, we appreciate you because that's the kind of stuff that means a lot to me. Yeah.
A few more that I would mention too. The 100th episode was a lot of fun. Was really great. And then, something you said, Matt, made me think of this, like when somebody asks what they should listen to, I have some people who maybe aren't big gamers or what have you. Sometimes I'll point them to like the episode we did with your boss, David, one about the games guides industry, something that's like just kind of an interesting dive into something that, you know what I mean? Like,
I can't believe I left that off my list. That's definitely one of the best episodes we've ever done. Just experts in the field,
Yeah. And just like really interesting to hear the stories and that kind of thing. So there's a lot of other great ones though too. Yeah, we could go on, but thanks for allowing us to
just masturbate all over our own show.
Yeah, thank you, DCD. Here's a fun one. Our next question is from Carusetta. Who are your favorite waifu and husbando on the Switch? I can't say it. The waifu culture is something that I'm not super familiar with, I guess you could even say. I feel like until I played Fire Emblem Three Houses, I didn't know much about it. And now I'm a little more aware of it. But yeah, this is a fun question. Like, who are the Nintendo characters that you really identify with, or find intriguing, or even sexy?
Want to marry?
Yeah.
Patrick, you first. I'm making you go first on this one.
I have had a hard time with this because I don't know that I feel that strongly about any of the characters. There's some characters I really love and identify with and like, but like that sort of romantic angle is what throws me for a loop. But I'm gonna give some answers because why not? I'm gonna, after playing, I can never just give one, but after playing Skyward Sword, I have a lot of affection for Zelda. That Zelda.
That's one of mine as well. Yeah.
The Skyward Sword one in particular, I feel like, Zelda, unfortunately, doesn't have a lot of character development in a lot of Zelda games, but in that game, she really does. And has a lot of heart and that kind of thing. And then to give a more traditional answer from Fire Emblem Three Houses, Petra was the character I was really into.
Oh, you're a Petra fan.
Yeah.
That explains a lot.
Explains a lot.
I don't know what that.
And then on the male side, man, I don't know. Is it weird to say like Mario, like the Mario characters, or like I don't know. I love Mario. He's the best.
This just in. Patrick wants to marry Mario.
I want to do Mario.
Oh yeah, but the Bob Hoskins version. Rest in peace. Those are great answers, Patrick. Yeah, I mean, I agree with Skyward Sword Zelda. She's just like such a great fleshed out character that like I just immediately had a crush on. You know, they just sold the like romantic angle between Link and Zelda really, really well on that game. Some shout outs, big Min Min fan. Also Candy Kong from the Donkey Kong Country series.
It happened
Straight
at
up.
a very
Formative time in my life. I'll say the Pinball FX girl whenever you open up Pinball FX. There's just
specific.
this like leather clad dominatrix person who's like, we want to play pinball, and I'm like, yes, mommy. And then as far as husbando is concerned, man, you gotta. I mean, I'm just completely 100% gay for Breath of the Wild Link. I'm not gonna lie there.
That's a good call.
Breath of the Wild Link is a cutie, and yes, I would absolutely go gay for Link. Matt, what about you?
Oh man, what to choose? I would say Samus.
Very good.
Metroid, number one.
In the suit or zero suit?
Or in the bikini.
Well, hold on.
Are we talking Justin Bailey here?
Wow.
What are we talking about?
If in the suit is possible, then why not?
Sex and video games.
Yeah. Samus is such a strong character. I talked about this when we were discussing some of the Metroid stuff many episodes ago. But when I was explaining the story of Samus and how much she's grown after I read the manga, she's such a strong character, and there's so much opportunity for Nintendo to give depth to the character and depth to the world that like I almost started crying when I was like telling the story of Samus. Samus is a great character, so waifu number one. Number two would be Little Mac, baby.
The wireframe one?
Yeah. Is that an option again? Is that possible? If so, absolutely. Little Mac,
Pink hoodie, green lines for a body.
Doc is watching. The joke answer is a jet ski from Wave Race.
Okay. Straight up though, Breath of the Wild Link. If you're listening right now, hit me up.
All right. Our next question comes from Austin, and this is: what genre or gameplay style niche do you feel is missing from Nintendo properties that you'd like to see them tackle? I like this question. Yeah, what like genres of video games that gameplay has Nintendo ignored that it would be cool to see a Nintendo take on?
Roguelike.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Mhm.
I can't think of a single Nintendo roguelike other than Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, and that is way more traditional roguelike than I want. You know what I mean? That's like
With
dungeon
the wrong,
crawling.
like difficulty.
Yeah, exactly. Like I want to see a good procedurally generated Nintendo game. I think if Nintendo did procedural generation with their level of polish and kind of the way that they world build, I think that would be incredible. I would love to see Nintendo tackle the roguelike genre.
Yeah. I don't play a lot of them, but it would be cool to see Nintendo do a MMORPG.
Yeah.
Whoa, okay, let's go.
That would be
like
cool.
To think and not I would hope that it's not one of their existing franchises.
Like a new IP.
Yeah, so that it's not like, oh, I don't really like Pokemon or something, you know what I mean? And I'm not interested in it or this.
Dude, a Pokemon MMO though, I would play that fucking right
That's
now.
where like the obvious one is.
Yeah,
But that's why
yeah.
I'm like, I'd like it to be something different, and then sort of like what you said too, like see that Nintendo polish on it, and like, man, what could they do with that?
Yeah. Good answer.
Hmm.
You got one, Matt?
I got one more.
No,
You need-
keep it going. Keep on going.
I got one more, and that would be a tower defense game. Have they ever done a tower defense game? You don't like tower defense games. I like a good tower defense game, and I think that's where like a lot of them are samey or feel cheap. And if they did something so that it's not just tower defense, maybe, but but like really did some interesting take on that genre. I think that
They've done one tower defense game, and it was like a Wii U game. It was like it was a Star Fox spinoff that they did. That I
that's
think was
right.
Like, yeah, and I forget what it was called now. It was
Yes,
a very
that's
forgettable
right.
game. I also just don't like that genre, so it didn't really stick with me. But it was like, yeah, they tried it once, but it was also like
it was like on the Star Fox. I remember reading about that game, but I never. Yeah,
it was like asynchronous, right? Like, because one person played on the gamepad, and then there was like other ways to play. But yeah, that was their one foray into tower defense.
yeah. Star Fox Guard.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, that's what it was. I'm thinking like mature games, like survival horror games, like a new entry in Eternal Darkness, or something with like a Resident Evil type third person action game.
I mean, hopefully that's a bit what Dread is like. It feels like they're leaning into the survival horror a little bit with Metroid Dread, and hopefully that kind of delivers on that feel.
It's tough to think of genres they haven't done at all, but we got a few of them there, and there's probably more. I'd be kind of.
Let's do a tower defense roguelike survival horror game, Nintendo, and make it massively multiplayer. Let's go.
Yeah. Also add light gun support
and jet skis.
Yes. Let's go.
All right. So the next question is great. I love this. Okay. This is from our friend Weebwitched. So here it goes. With the recent popularity and celebrity answers to this question, I'd like to know from the Switch Heads, what are your bathing rituals? So I think this is coming.
We're about to alienate our entire audience.
Well, maybe Ashton Kutcher, right? And was asked like, or somehow this came out in the news that they don't take baths or showers very often. And then this led to another celebrity saying that too, like Jake Gyllenhaal or something. Follow celebrity news.
Jake Gyllenhaal was like, if it don't stink, don't wash it or whatever. He said
yeah.
something like that.
And then everybody's like, these people obviously don't have to do manual labor of any kind. Because,
or move at all.
Because it doesn't take super long before it does stink.
And then The Rock came out and was like, I shower 3 times a day.
That's excessive.
Yeah, I agree.
That's crazy.
He's got big veins, though. So.
To directly answer the question, I'm a dirty hippie. And my wife actively complains that I stink.
Wow.
I just putting it out there.
Yeah.
A quick anecdote. When I was in college, I hardly showered at all.
Wow.
And I shipped I went to college far away, and I shipped my clothes back to my house, and which I had not washed in forever. They were all dirty clothes, and my mom opened this box, and she's like knocked out by the stench.
Yeah.
I rode home on a plane from college for the last time, and the lady sitting next to me on the plane said, "Have you been backpacking?" And I said, "No." And we did not speak the rest of the flight.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
I was
My entire perception of you has just changed, Patrick.
I was younger then. Now I know that it's important to shower before you do public things, and you shouldn't ship your mom a giant thing of dirty clothes. But I still, especially in COVID era, I have like not been showering as often as I used to. I mean, so there you go. Prior when I had to go to office, I would shower every day, but
Yeah. Now, Matt, are you going to blow my mind? Because I feel like you're a once a day showerer.
I am. If I smell myself and that smell is bad, I will shower.
That's a good rule of thumb.
Which is probably like...
and I don't follow it.
Yeah. You're so honest. I appreciate your honesty, Patrick.
Yeah. No, no, totally.
I got some specifics if you're wondering. I killed some time. So I shower with Jason's Rosewater body wash. I have a SkinCeuticals face wash. I have like a vibrating thing I rub on my face because I get breakouts easily.
Like electronic.
No wonder you're the cute one.
Yeah, gotta take care of the skin. But I shave with no shaving cream. I just go straight razor after the hot shower.
Okay,
there's some specifics for you.
But what about like right now? If you let it grow out for a while, do you shave dry still?
No.
Okay.
I will cut myself.
Yeah, I use clippers.
Yeah.
For that.
I wish I could grow a full beard. I've tried many, many times, but my beard is a terrible beard. So keep it short.
Well, me and Patrick don't have that problem. Anyway,
No, not at all. And that's why y'all are the cute ones.
Okay, come on.
That's why we're the bearded ones.
Yeah, we're the bearded ones.
Because I don't like to shave. I just told me I don't like to shower. How often do you think I like to shave?
I am not. I'm clearly not a fan of shaving. Matt, by the way, I would love to see you mustache only sometime. I think you've got a great mustache, and I think you would look really good with that. Just a quick aside. Yeah,
I have done that, and everyone was scared.
Yeah, well, they're wrong. Whenever I shave a mustache, everybody's either like, you look like Mario or you look like a pedophile. And I think if we all did mustaches, that would change the public perception.
Everyone out there listening.
Yeah, I'm just a big mustache fan. Anyway, I'm in the middle of you guys. I'm not a disgusting freak like Patrick, and I'm not a pretty boy like Matt. I'm like pretty much an every other day showerer. I will say that. I think a pretty good indication of whether or not I've showered is if I'm wearing a hat or not, because I've got very thin hair that mats and greases very easily.
How often do you see me without a hat?
Yeah, right.
Exactly. To tell. Yeah, it's a good tell.
And we also have similar genes, Patrick. Like we I think that somewhere down the line our grandparents were fucking. But anyway, I think I'm like because I think that I also my natural musk is not too offensive, right? And it's really after day 2 of not showering that it's like, okay, this is becoming a problem. I will say this though, whether or not I shower every day, I do put deodorant on every day because that's one thing you just don't want to fuck around with.
What kind of deodorant do you got?
Recently I've been using like a non-yellowing stick version. I forget exactly what it's called, but it's working for me. And I'm going to continue with that one because I think I smell nice and my clothes no longer are ruined in the underarm section.
Nice. Well, we talked about that for a while. Is there anything? Is there anything else? Should we move on?
I have.
Maybe we did put too many questions on.
Yeah, I got 2 sets of colognes that I alternate through. I have a Lacoste.
It's Axe body spray and Axe body wash.
And Axe laser, whatever the flavors are. Flavors, what the fuck? Ingredients to Axe, I don't know.
So next one is from Donnie Tello. What song or album triggers your nostalgia for a game? And then they have some commentary. I'm going to go ahead and read this.
Yeah, go for it.
Mine is the Cake album, Prolonging the Magic. Makes me want to play the Tomb Raider on PS1 because I would play that album on repeat on my little boombox and just play Tomb Raider most of the day. I remember the house, room I was in, the smell and feeling of those days. Crazy? Anyone else?
Not crazy.
Yeah. If you don't mind, I'll go first.
Go for it.
This was the question that I had an immediate answer to. It's very specific and relevant. Lee Scratch Perry's Roots Train #1. Lee Scratch Perry, R.I.P., passed away this week. But when the Dreamcast era was happening, my friend and I would listen to Lee Scratch Perry a lot. Roots Train #1 as a joke, but over time it got more sincere where I started really listening to Lee Scratch Perry. But at that time was when I was first learning about how to mod Dreamcast and how to play backups using a boot disk, and also how to play Phantasy Star Online. So my first time playing console games online was on a Dreamcast while listening to Lee Scratch Perry Roots Train #1.
Good answer. Yeah. For me, it's not as good of music, but I had an immediate answer to this as well. And I actually have 2 memories connected to this album. But when I was a kid, my favorite movie of all time was the Lost in Space movie with Matt LeBlanc. For some reason, I loved that movie. I loved that and Godzilla starring Matthew Broderick. Those are like, it was like 97, 98, right? So I was like, it was about like 10 at this point. And so I bought the Lost in Space soundtrack, which had a lot of really cool music on it. Actually, it had like Fatboy Slim and a lot of like kind of like D&B, like drum and bass songs and stuff like that. And so there would be 2 things I would do while listening to the soundtrack. One is I would build like what are they called? The Lego Bionicles. I would like build Lego Bionicle creatures. So whenever I see Bionicles, I think of all the music from this. And also I would play Super Monkey Ball 2 at the time. And so for me, the Lost in Space soundtrack and like all those drum and bass music is like tied intrinsically to Super Monkey Ball 2, which is interesting because I feel like some Super Monkey Ball 2 also kind of has a bit of a D&B flair to some of its soundtrack. So yeah, I'll never be able to stop that connection in my head. That was immediately what I thought of.
That's great, y'all. I don't have an answer for this. I don't have like a non-video game music that triggers a video game memory for me that I can even think of. Maybe if that song hit me, like some weird 90s song or something. But that's awesome that y'all do.
I think people have different kinds of sense memory, right? And I think it's like it's totally tied. And I think that there are more as well that I probably have, but that was the one that just like snapped to my head right away.
Me too.
Yeah. That's awesome. I like hearing y'all's stories. That makes me wonder if there's something out there, but I can't think of anything, and I didn't.
Your memory will be triggered one way or another, and you'll think of it 20 episodes on or something.
I'll share this with you later, Donnie.
Santana featuring Rob Thomas, Smooth.
So our last couple questions here are about the actual podcast. So this is a cool way to end. This first one, or this is sort of a two-parter from KSBOKC. What has been the most pleasant surprise about making this podcast? Flip side, if you could go back and change one thing from the start, what would it be and why? So let's tackle that first one. What's been the most pleasant surprise about making this podcast? It's a cheap answer, but for me, it's the community. It's been the people that I've become friends with because of this. The timing of it being, that so much of this podcast has happened during COVID. I mean, not the first year or however long, but like the rest of the time, it's been great to have online friends to chat about things and games. And I feel like I've become really good friends with a lot of people that I either didn't know or kind of casually knew, or, including both of y'all. Like,
yeah, I feel like we've all become like really close friends. I think for me, it's a similar answer. It's like, I think that the thing for me, because this originally, the Switch Headz Facebook group existed before this podcast did, And so what I always thought this podcast would just be like a podcast for that Facebook group. And what it's turned into is a community has really formed out of the podcast. You know what I mean? And a lot more people have joined the community because of the podcast, or they found it. When we were in Fort Worth for the concert recently, we actually talked to, I don't know if you were in the room yet, Matt, but it was like I was talking to Summer and Kyle just about how they found it, and they were like, "Oh yeah, well we just were going on Spotify looking for gaming podcasts, and we found it." And it was like, "Oh," and then now you guys are like, some of my closest friends, and so it's like that is like something that I did not expect. I expected that it would be, the small group of Austin people that would listen to the podcast, and it would just kind of be self-serving and kind of for us. But in fact, it's been the opposite, and a lot more people have joined the community that started off first as just listeners or fans, and have now become close friends or even guests on the show. And so that's a really cool part.
Yeah, same sucker answer for me too. Community. It's like we all want to be a part of something, and we all want to feel connected to each other. And gaming has that power to do that. So I'm glad we been able to build a small but loyal fan base on Discord or Facebook. I think the second thing that I can think of is like I don't know how y'all handle this, but sometimes when I'm hanging out, my partner's a musician, and all of her musician friends are really cool, and so sometimes it's like really strange to be like, she'll introduce me as like, hey, he has a Switch podcast, which is like feels strange and kind of like way different from all the cool music people that are writing really cool hip hop music or something like that. But almost everyone was like, "Oh, I love my Switch. Tell me, yes. I wanna listen to this podcast. Tell me which episode I should listen to, and I'll listen to it tonight. I'll subscribe to it." And so I've been having these conversations that I would never have before with people that I met within the past couple of years about the Nintendo Switch and what games are playing. And now we play like Splatoon together. It's crazy. You think like people aren't into video games, and then you learn, oh, people have multiple interests and they're also into video games. And it's just very surprising.
Yeah, if I could tack onto that too, something that surprised me is the number of people who like don't own a Switch and don't really play video games that listen to the podcast. Because I know a few people like straight up like that just like hearing us talk with each other, and that's like, and if you're out there and you're listening right now and you haven't reached out and you do that, please let us know, because that would really tickle my fancy. And then just the flip side of that question, we don't have to spend as long on this one, but I think if we could change one thing from the beginning, it would probably be to just have been doing this whole post-COVID format of what we do right now, doing the Zoom, the digital stuff from the very beginning. I think that as soon as we stopped recording in one room at Matt's house, and not to say that the guests we had on during that period were not important. Those were amazing guests that we had during that time.
Yeah, we still have those
here in Austin
regularly.
Yeah, and we still have them on all the time. But it's like, now we can interview whoever from wherever, from whatever time zone, and it's like, and I think that, and we've been able to have fans on and people from the community that we wouldn't have been able to have on before because they don't live in Austin on the show. So, I mean, I think it's fine that we did it that way before, but I don't know that we'll ever go back to the way that we originally did it in a post-COVID world. It definitely feels like this is kind of, the podcast has flourished in this format, and I really cherish that.
I agree with that. Because we've interviewed people, not just like developers and such, but also fans and friends that we've made. Like Ant Keeps Gaming comes to mind, who's been a very big part of our community, and
he got his own whole goddamn show.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, Patrick, you gave him the power.
It's just, I had the same thought actually. I think, but I don't know that I would. I wouldn't change that because but that's how I feel about all this stuff. Like anytime you start to,
right.
Well, this, because without it, we wouldn't have gotten here. But
no regrets.
That's the obvious one. I agree. Like, this is nice. And I hope we can do some in-person one someday where, just because that will be fun, but that would be the rare thing. I think I agree.
Love to do a live show at PAX.
Yeah.
We'll do a live show at PAX, and that's the only place we sell merch.
Well, that kind of leads into our last question here, I guess.
Yeah. The Huge 27 gave us this question. We'll end on this. Where do you hope to see the podcast go in the next few years? So this is a forward-looking one. Fun to end on this. What do we want to have happen with the podcast?
Hire an editor.
I think that raises such an interesting. Yeah, that's where I wrestle with this. Right? It's like it'd be nice for us to be bigger and have more reach, but it's nice the level of community we have right now too. So so I don't know.
It's never been. I'm not a super ambitious guy. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I feel like I have a healthy amount of ambition, right? But it's like it's never been my goal for this to be like the biggest podcast ever, to have the biggest audience in the world. I was just content just talking to you guys and just having fun, And so it's like any amount of support or community that we've grown is like an incredibly pleasant surprise for me, And so it's like, as far as, I mean, I
totally.
Having been said, I'd love to hire an editor.
Right. Well, to your point, none of us have made that a huge priority.
Right.
And other things I've been a part of, I think they're more business-minded people or just whatever. And that's how do we get our SEO up? How do we do this? We've never really done that. And I'm rambling, but I guess it's easy to say, growth or something as an answer to this. But I think maybe it would just be depth rather than growth, right? Continue to have on interesting guests, be able to say, if I'm asked again, what's your favorite episode? Not those same ones, but
Yeah.
but new ones, that kind of a thing that we can do.
But secretly, we all know the answer will be Disney Soup
Zoom
Festival.
No, like hopefully
we peaked at Zoom.
Right. Well, that's why. Yeah, like that it will continue to be a source of joy, and that there will be new Zooms ahead.
Right. and past the editing remark, which was kind of a joke. I mean, although,
but I think that would be great too, right? If we could, have it sustain.
But I mean, like we all, something I love about this podcast, and this is a little bit of how the sausage is made, but we all have like our roles as to what we do in the back end for this show. Like Matt is doing a lot of the video stuff now and does most of the art. I do a lot of the editing, and Patrick does the show notes and kind of is the quote unquote host of the show. And so it's like we all kind of have our stuff, and so that's really fulfilling. What I would love to see more of, and something that I think is trending really well right now with the show, is video stuff and streaming. And I think I love that, Patrick, you're streaming more. I'm really enjoying doing streaming. But Matt, I know you've streamed in the past, and then not only just us three, but it's like our whole community. Ryan streams a lot, Summer streams all the time, and all these members. I mean, we have a whole live streams channel on our Discord, and I think like building a kind of Switch Headz network of streamers and video production stuff, I think is a really cool idea, and just something that where we can all kind of grow together and boost each other up, I think is a really great way to get that growth and have it be natural, and not like because you paid X amount to some fucking podcast aggregator company to get you on Facebook ads or whatever. It's like that's whatever. It's like, but if we can all help each other to get where we want to be in a natural way, that's what I would love to see in the future.
Yeah, that's the depth that Patrick is talking about. Like, we're supporting the community, and the community is supporting each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to your point, shout out to Summer, because anytime I drop by like Ryan's stream or medium quality Adam's stream, or Summer's always there.
Dude,
and that, so Summer I feel like that is happening.
Summer's been in every single one of my streams, and I'm so appreciative of that. And because of that, it makes me want to stop by Summer streams as well. And it's like, and everybody, I love going into your streams too, Patrick, and we just have such a supportive community, and it's like you can't buy that with Facebook ad money. You know what I mean? Like that shit's natural. Like.
You mentioned Adam at Medium Quality. Just to throw him under the bus here, he put out a Twitter post that says that he fucking hates Zelda.
That's not what it
said. I know. That's not what he said. Yeah, he was like,
but it was I
didn't really get into
dox this man.
Yeah.
But
it's very supportive. I'm supporting his tweets. Go check out Medium Quality. I think for me, I would love to take our this is also aligns with kind of the depth. What we're talking about is like the whole episode that we did on Steam Gardens versus Gusty Garden. Like that format, it's got no stakes, but it's also really fun to debate. I would love to do that on stage at a PAX, to where we bring in music experts, and we bring in debate experts. We'll bring in the computer from Jeopardy to gauge it. Watson will be there. I would love to do something really like high risk, low risk, high reward kind of situation would be really fun for me.
Yeah. And I mean, at the end of the day, the end goal on where we want to see the podcast go in the next few years, interviewing Reggie. As long as we can get Reggie on the show, or Bill Trinan too. I want to get Reggie and Bill on the show so bad. Those are like real goals that I have. So if anybody listening right now has an in, hit us up.
Awesome. Thanks so much to everybody that sent in a question. We'll do this again sometime, so please send in your questions to us for a future similar episode, or if anything we talked about strikes you, we'd love to hear what you have to say in response, or if you have a better answer, please share it with us.
Yeah. Well, where do you hope this podcast goes? What are your bathing habits?
Awesome. So we'll take a short break and come back and talk about the games we've been playing recently. So I've been playing a number of games, but I'm going to mostly talk about two, or exclusively talk about two. I played through NeoCab. which is a really interesting game. Highly recommend it, actually. It's a visual novel sort of game where you play as a like an Uber driver, essentially. It's a different app. It's called NeoCab, and in a sort of dystopian future, cyberpunk kind of vibe city that's a little too real in some ways. There's a lot of really great commentary about the gig economy, about just trying to scrape by on the edge. Really interesting story world. Like this, I've not played a game that's made me feel some of the anxiety of like what to say when you're balancing like sort of emotional reality versus like, I don't want my star rating to go down, but I need this money so that tonight I can sleep at a, like hotel or whatever. Like it really does create that sense of anxiety in the player. I mean, so maybe if you are a gig worker, don't play this if you're trying to relax, but it really stuck with me. And I don't know that I've ever immediately beaten a game and started a new save file.
Wow.
But I did it with this game because it's like, I want to see what happens if I do some of these other choices, and what's the critical path and what's like what I can affect. And so I'm about 2/3 through a second playthrough.
So did you played the good path the first time? Are you going like neutral this time or pure fucking evil?
I don't know, and I'm kind of guessing that there's only certain things you can really affect. You know what I mean? In terms of the main story. But then there's all these side stories. You can develop relationships with characters. You can choose who you pick up, right? Like which rides you're going to take. And so like the first playthrough, there are some people I just didn't ever pick up. That I was like, I want to see their story. And then that's where you can like do what you're saying and like have a positive relationship with them and affect each other positively or vice versa. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But I don't know how much of the main story you can change. I want to figure that out actually, but that's a lot about that game, but I really liked it and I'm playing through it again. And so I do recommend checking it out. Short game, probably. I don't know how long it took me because I've just, because the Switch doesn't fucking tell you. But probably like 3 or 4 hours.
Cool.
And then I also played through Abzu, another short indie game, this past week. And I played that with my son. He was like, let's play a new game. And I was like, yeah, let me go through the list of, games I've bought but not played on the Switch. And we picked that one. And not the way to play this game because he is a goal-oriented gamer. He's like, go to the gate. And that game is very much swim around and enjoy the scenery. Don't rush to the gate like we did. Because it's a pretty short game. But even rushing to the gate was enjoyable. It's very chill zone out.
It's like a journey-esque game, right?
Yeah, there's some very light puzzle elements and maybe an hour, 2-hour game. Longer if you take your time, but we probably beat it in an hour and a half at the most, by like crashing through it. But even then, every once in a while, I was like, I'm going to ride around on this whale for a minute. You got to chill out. He's like, but the gate's right there. But enjoyed having some shorter experiences that as well, games that you can beat in a weekend or whatever.
I bought that game for my dad because he was like looking for like a chill game because he was like, I'm so stressed. But I want to play my Switch.
It's definitely a chill game.
Yeah.
Great music. The art's really great. The gameplay is really generally pretty good. It's a little hard to control at times, but it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like
what was the name again?
Pretty smooth. Abzu. Abzu.
Yeah. I think it might even be by the people who made Journey, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I have no clue who the developers of either of those games are. Now that I say that, I kind of have to look that up. But those are some of the games I played.
Cool. I'll go next. I've been playing a ton of games recently. I've been playing a lot more Super Metroid. I was like not sure when I did the stream last week if I just play the whole game on stream or play some off stream. So I've been playing some off stream, but I'll probably stream again this week. And you'll see me a little bit further in the game with some more upgrades if you tune in. So I'll do that. So that's been a lot of fun to play that and get some use out of the NSO service. Spelunky 1 and 2 came out on the Switch, people, and I have been playing it a lot. I've been playing a lot of Spelunky 1 because I've never actually completed Spelunky 1. I've never like gotten to the very final. I mean, I've gotten to the final area, but I haven't beaten the final boss. And I'm like pretty fucking good at Spelunky. So it just kind of shows like what kind of game Spelunky is, you know what I mean? And I put like tons of hours into that game. So my goal right now is to like beat Spelunky 1 finally, now that it's on the Switch. And then also I played a little bit of Spelunky 2 online with Jay, the huge 27, which was fun because he knew nothing about Spelunky. So I was like teaching him literally everything there is to do. And then I also played with Rapatika, Dylan, who was on our show recently, and he knows like everything about Spelunky too. So I was the guy whose hand was being held. So it was cool to be on kind of both ends of that. And I actually had a ton of fun playing with Rapatika. So if you're listening to this, let's play again very soon. So yeah, the Spelunky series, get either of them on the Switch. They're both incredible games. Such a great time. I've been really enjoying that. What else have I been playing? We played a lot of Twinkle Star Sprites when we were in Fort Worth. That was really fun. Played in the hotel.
2 fairies, baby.
Yeah, that's right.
Some background for everyone is we're playing Twinkle Star Sprites. I never played this game before, and I smoked one person. I won once, and I started shit talking. And this is what I do. This is who I am. But I kept on saying like there's a character like I can't remember. There's like Twinkle and Dinkle. I don't remember their names.
I think that is their names.
Yeah. And I kept on saying 2 fairies as a form of shit talk. It's not very good shit talk. But then both Weeb Witched and David were like, they're sprites, not fairies.
It's Twinkle Star Sprites.
And I was like, okay, you're right. But I kept on doing it because I'm an asshole.
Yeah. And then you looked it up on Wikipedia.
And they're fucking fairies. They're not sprites.
What's the difference? Like, or is that just a small difference?
Purely syntactical. Anyway.
They're pixies.
Right. Pixies. Maybe that's what I was looking for. But yeah, either way, I played Twinkle Star Sprites this past weekend with 2 different sets of people, and both were having a great time. So you've heard me talk about this game before. It's excellent.
Would recommend.
Yeah. And then a few more games I've been playing. Because like I said, I can't stop playing games. I played WarioWare Gold on my 3DS because I've been on this WarioWare kick recently. And WarioWare Gold is like the ultimate WarioWare game. It's got all the like button versions from like the original game for the Game Boy Advance. It has the stylus mini games from the DS game, and then it also has the tilt games from WarioWare Twisted, and they're kind of all mixed up all together. And so if you're going to play any WarioWare game at all, have it be that one. If you have a 3DS, WarioWare Gold is an absolute masterpiece. It's a game I bought like a bit ago, but then only played a little bit because the Switch had like just come out. And so I was way into the Switch. And so I was barely playing my 3DS. And now that I've been playing a lot of other WarioWare games, getting ready for this new one, I went back to it and I'm like, oh my God, this game is so goddamn good. And it just has like, 300 to 400 micro games. It's insane. It's like a best of the series. So that's great. And then 2 last little games I've been playing on my Xbox. Myst, the remaster of Myst, which was like a VR game that they made, also came out on Xbox Game Pass. And so I wasn't going to buy this game because I bought it for my Switch, and I can't just buy a million versions of Myst. Like, I just can't do that, even though I'm a huge Myst fan. But it was on Game Pass. So I was like, great. And god damn, they fucking nailed it. It's like completely, the graphics are like some of the best graphics I've ever seen in a video game. It's got ray tracing. It's just like a completely new experience. And I loved it so much that I stopped playing it. And I think I'm going to pick it up and play it on stream. So if that sounds interesting to you and you want to watch a huge Myst fan play the new version of Myst for the first time, hit me up. I'll be doing that on twitch.tv/monolithfiji. What about you, Matt? What have you been playing recently?
Oh, man. I added so many games to my backlog. Psychonauts 2, I added 12 minutes, and the other VR game I can't think of right now. I'll get to it eventually, but there's so many games. It feels like there's so many games.
I expect you to die too.
Thank you. Yeah, that's the one. I always want to say something else, but I Can Expect You to Die Too is on my backlog. There's so many games, but primarily, we played Twinkle Star
Twinkle-
Sprites. Goddamn. This is a long episode, so I'm starting to go the downwards. Downwards.
I'm fading.
Yeah. I also beat David one time at Tricky Towers. What's up?
I forgot we played that too.
I did not. I will never forget this moment. But also, I got to introduce Witched and Baylor and Kyle to my alter ego, my heel character when I play any new Super Mario Bros. I turn into the worst player. I don't have this opportunity.
I don't want to talk about it.
Patrick, you've been on the receiving end of this, which I'm sorry. But when I play that fun. Game, it allows me to be a 100% lawful, chaotic evil. Yes. I'm 100% chaotic evil when I play any 2D Mario game.
I grabbed the Joy-Con out of Matt's hand and threw it across the room. Patrick, you're a better man than I, is all I'll say.
And all I said is, that's exactly what I wanted.
That's funny.
It was really fun. It was great. Honestly, it was great to be in the same room to play video games with people again.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Awesome. Well, then that's it, right? That's it for this listener question episode. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. Thanks to MilkyWay.co for doing our website. Thanks to Corduroy for doing our music. If you're looking for me, Patrick Online, I am PDYX.
Hey, I'm Matthew, MATHYOU.
I'm pretty much ever on the internet at Monolith Fiji. And if you'd like to find our show on social media, we are at Switch Headz on Twitter and at Super Switch Headz on Instagram and Facebook. And then in addition to that, we've talked about them a lot, but we got our Discord community, baby. Join the Discord. If you're listening right now and you haven't joined the Discord yet, join us. We're such a tight community, such a great group of people, and it's the easiest way to get questions onto the show that we can answer right here on a new episode of Super Switch Headz. And then join our Facebook community as well. Such an awesome community all in and of itself, and the memes flow like wine there. We've talked about it before. You know what we're doing. Join these groups. They're both fantastic. That's going to do it for this listener question episode. What a fun time. And that really, this is really the soft finale of season 3 of Super Switch Headz. We're going to have a very special episode for you next week where we're finally doing the long awaited Legend of Zelda fan fictions that I wrote in 4th and 5th grade. The audiobook versions of that are going to be coming out next week. And that's our official season 3 finale. We're taking a week off next week. We're doing that instead. So if anything big breaks, if fucking Game Boy games drop on NSO, we're not going to be here to talk about it next week. So forgive us for that. But we will be back the week after next with season 4 of Super Switch Headz. Can you believe it's been going on this long, guys? What are we going to do? But other than that, we love you guys very much. Be safe out there. Get the vaccine so you can go to hotels with your friends and play Twinkle Star Sprites in person, because you can't play that game online. You can only play it with other vaccinated people. So do that for yourself and for others. But other than that, we love you guys so much. We'll see you next week for an audiobook. Bye-bye.
One, two, three. Bananas.